Today's sponsor is Forever Barnwood. Guys, we have been using this in our renovation of our building here in Powell, Wyoming, and I am here to tell you it is amazing. They are a premier supplier of barnwood across the U.S. Their products come from fresh-cut Wisconsin white pine, which has been kiln-dried way below standard lumber and hand-processed into various products like barn doors, beams, flooring, and wall covering. This type of lumber product provides all of the advantage of reclaimed barnwood at a fraction of the cost, not to mention how easy it is to work with because it's straight lumber and it doesn't have all the waste. Their barnwood products are a renewable resource and come in a variety of widths and lengths, large sizes for countertops, beams, posts, stairs, and railing systems, as well as wall covering and everything else. Their prices are only a fraction of the cost elsewhere, and they can ship anywhere you need it. With their innovative barnwood products, you'll have the right piece at the right time for your special project. So check them out at foreverbarnwood.com, and no matter what your project is, Forever Barnwood has you covered. This episode is sponsored by Secure It, the gun storage system. Have you ever wondered the best way to store your guns, ammo, and actually all your valuables? There is a fine line between safety and accessibility. There's also something to be said about being able to customize your safe for your needs. If you're storing long guns, handguns, ammo, or just need a wall to hang your equipment on, Secure It has your back. They have cabinets, rooms, and everything in between. Secure It safes are simple, strong, straightforward, and, by the way, they don't keep your combination codes. Secure It. Well, welcome, Willie. I so much appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy, and you got a lot going on and influencing people and every day. And I know an hour out of your day is a lot. And
my pleasure, man. No, I'm glad to be here and good to be here in Montana.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We're here in Kalispell, Whitefish, outside of Kalispell, Montana. It's a
I've
hot
never
day
been
for
here.
us.
Yeah, y'all keep saying that, and it doesn't. It seems like our fall, so it's weird. Everybody's saying it's hot, but it feels really cool to me. So yeah, what a beautiful spot. I've never been to this particular area of Montana, but yeah, man, I'm loving it.
Well, it's today we want to talk about a bunch of stuff. You have a new book coming out or came out that we'll talk about, and which is I think life changing to a lot of people. And we'll talk about your childhood, talk about your family, talk about the fame and how that's kind of how it's changed your life, I'm sure, significantly, and Corey's life.
Yeah.
So growing up, tell me about childhood as a
little Willie.
Yeah. In the middle of nowhere on a river fishing.
Yeah, man. We grew up in Northeast Louisiana, right off the banks of the Ouachita River. And grew up really poor. I didn't find out later till we were poor, like, cause it just felt normal to us. We were happy as we could be. Dad was a commercial fisherman. That's what he did mostly for his job. So the duck call thing was kind of in the background, but it was really small at the time. And so mostly how we made our money was fishing.
When you say commercial,
nets.
Okay.
Yeah, running nets. Yeah, he had probably in the heyday, he probably had 150 nets, hoop nets and trammel nets that went across the river. And yeah, we sold catfish was the big thing. We'd sell our catfish and then buffalo and trash fish, gar.
Was it mostly locally? It's not like you're selling it to a market.
No, selling local. So we'd go to the fish markets. I don't even know if there are fish markets anymore, even where I'm from. Like
I see them I was in Seattle here a couple of days ago and I saw them there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it's a different thing.
Yeah, I mean, now I guess you can get fish at grocery stores and stuff, but like back then it was just, we would go straight to these markets and hopefully we would sell them all, but if we didn't, we would hit the streets and put a sign up, fresh fish, and that's how we made a living. So, and it seemed like everything kind of revolved around that. Even as kids, like I think kids today don't realize like we revolved around mom and dad's business or, how we made money way more than like what my kids do. They're not like involved in my job, especially when they were younger. So, so that was kind of how we scratched a living out. And so we had to work, we had chores that we had to do and pertaining to the business. So we would do all the things with Duck Commander. So even as a kid, like we'd answer the phone, Duck Commander, and we'd take orders and we would do customer service, write orders down the back of paper plates or whatever and put them on the in mom's little tray. And we had to fold boxes. We did that a lot. So we folded the boxes for the duck calls to go in. We dipped the duck calls. I cleaned the shop a lot. That was kind of my deal. Jace was a little older, so he was more, and even Al, my oldest brother, was, they were more involved in the bigger parts of the business. So young, I was like,
The grunt.
doing whatever they told me to do. Yeah, and I would do it. And my little brother didn't come along till later, so most of it I was the youngest. So yeah, I just kind of filled in, and I was always trying to make some cash on the side, I guess. And so I was always hustling up business. So I always kind of have a business mindset and all that. Never dreamed I would work for Duck Commander. I thought, man, when I'm out of here, I'm out of here. I'm never doing this again. And got drawn back into it when I was about 30 is when I came back to the business, and then was able to kind of take it over and then I guess take it to the next level. And here we are.
So we share a couple unique things. My family business, obviously, we have family business. I'm third generation. Same thing. I was taking orders for VHS tapes when I was like 5, 6 years old. I could answer the phone, and I'd always laugh because they always thought I was a woman. I was just a little kid. Like, yes, ma'am. I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't care. Give me the money. But so there's kind of a parallel there with the family business, which is fun. And I too went off, and I was a banker for a number of years and got called back. What was the draw? Did your parents go, we're done with this? Or did we need, we need help? Or did you just go, I think I could make this better?
Yeah, it was probably a little of all that. When did y'all sell VHS tapes?
So we we took the theatricals from the 70s and put them in VHS tapes. 1982, something like that.
A little earlier than us.
Yeah, so it was like VHS stores.
We started selling VHS like probably 88. It's probably when we first came out with, Duckman 1. And so, yeah, we did the VHS tapes. And then I remember Dad, when I took over the business, one of the first things I wanted to do was quit selling VHS and go to DVD. Oh. And Dad thought I'd lost my mind. He was like, what? Like, we're not going to have any VHS. And I said, no. And he said, I still watch VHS. And I'm like, Dad, you're the only person I think left that still, like, DVDs are way better. So I remember that.
Have you watched a VHS lately?
I haven't. No, I haven't. No.
It's absolutely hilarious. One of the guys that works for me he still listens to 8 tracks in his shop. He's just that guy. And I was over at his shop the other day looking, and he's rebuilding a Suburban, like a 68 Suburban. And he's got one of my grandfather's VHS in. It is horrible quality. It's horrible. He goes, well, it's probably because it's wore out. I'm like, no, it's just bad, it's horrible. How did we ever get entertained by that? I have no idea.
How fast that came to where we're at now. Yeah. I got drawn in. I'd done some other things, and I'd worked at a Christian church camp really through my 20s and ran that. That was part of my wife's family's business, or really their charity stuff that they did. And so I got drawn back in. I came back in. I was kind of at a point in my life. I was like, man, I was mowing one of the fields down there at the camp. I didn't make much money, but it's having fun in what I was doing. And I just kind of had this, vision. And I said, man, I think I can go make some money. I thought I could do that, and didn't know really how I was going to do that. And so I looked at Duck Commander, and they were kind of done. They were like, I think we've done everything. And, business wasn't that great, and they kind of, all their ideas were gone because they weren't really business people. Dad just wanted to hunt, and Mom had, we found out later she graduated high school. I never thought she did, but, they're just running this thing out of their home, and it was kind of in debt. And so I went down there and I said, hey, I think I can, I started working for him. And then what I started doing was traveling with Phil. And so I'd go to the shows with him. I would run the booth in the back. Dad would get up and speak and do his thing. And I kind of was able to watch it, I guess, from afar, like from a wide view of it. And I saw these people reacting to Phil, and I was like, man, he's got something, there's like really something here. And so that's when I said, hey, I think I can take this, but we've got to get like more to the customer. And fortunately for me, this was right when the internet was kind of really taking off. And so Dad didn't know anything about the internet. He's never had a computer, never had a cell phone, and he was not ready for what was fixing to happen. And so when I came in, I said, Dad, I think we can we need a website. We need to be able to talk to the customer directly because we only sold to stores. So we sold to Walmart, we sold to Bass Pro, a few other stores. And, but I said, I think we can really make this connection. And he just wasn't sure. He hated the idea of the internet. So, and he said, you tell them if they want to buy a duck call, they pick up the phone and call, And I said, Dad, I think people are going to order, like literally order off this thing and we'll ship it to them. So Corey and we were the ones who actually started the website. We started duckcommander.com right out of our house. And so I was basically a dealer for
you were taking the
company.
orders.
Yeah. So I was the dealer, and I was able to do that on my own. And it was just like we went back in time. It was just like when I grew up as kids because we were answering the phone at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Duck Commander, how can I help you? And people would call from all over the world and order stuff. And so I was able to talk to them directly. And so we really started kind of got a feel on where we were, what products were moving, what was selling. Then we were selling direct instead of just to the stores, which we still sold to the stores as well. And it wasn't too long after I took over. Walmart was such a big part of our business, and which was nice. But I was like, what if what if something happened here? They were probably 80% of our business. And sure enough, about 2 years into it, they went zero. Like, they had
changing philosophy, direction.
Yeah, it was. And I think they were trying to be like Target, and they were like, we're going to have one duck call, and it's not even going to have a logo. They didn't want any of your logos. It just it would just want to say duck call, and everything was going to be like red and blue or something.
It was like generic cheese.
Yeah, it
just said cheese.
Like hammer, duck call, yeah. And so they did that, and sure enough, we were out for 1 year, and they heard from the customers, and so the next year they brought everything back. And but I kind of seen that happen, so I went around and got into a lot of other stores before that because I was like, and so I was able to get these relationships into other businesses, and so that really helped us get through. And then one of the biggest things that I brought to the table was bringing in sponsorships and bringing in other companies. Because Dad had never networked. No one knew really who he was. It was like he's this bearded dude that was kind of religious, and nobody knew him. He never went to the shows. He never was like at SHOT Show or anything. And so I started making these connections. So started actually collecting money for people to pay us to use their camouflage or shotguns or shells. And so Dad thought I was brilliant. Like he didn't even know that was out there. And so when I start bringing in money, it's straight to the bottom line that we don't, and we get free products. And so all of a sudden we're getting shotguns and shells and clothing. And Dad was like, man,
are you Santa Claus?
Yeah. And he really was just like, get out of the way, let him go. And so that's kind of what saved me and what kind of got us out of the rut that we were in that they kind of driven us into. And so, so I mean, he did all the heavy lifting, just the vision he had and what he wanted to do. And he was really on point with that. And I was able to spread it out, make it bigger and wider. That eventually led to the, obviously the big television show that was actually first on the Outdoor Channel. So that's where it started was that. And Corey came to me. And so Corey watched reality TV, and none of us did. I still don't watch reality TV. But she watched it all the time, and she said, Willie, y'all need to start a TV show. You and your family need to do a TV show. And I said, Corey, I think we're just normal people. Like, I just didn't really see. And she said, Willie, y'all ain't normal. And I said, you think we're not? She goes, I know you're not normal. Y'all are so bizarre. And then it was probably a month after she said that, Benelli came to me at SHOT Show, and they said, hey, we're thinking about doing a TV show with you guys. And I said, man, Corey just said we should do a TV show. And he goes, yeah, we'll put it on the Outdoor Channel and, sponsored by us. And he had hired a couple of guys from reality TV kind of in-house for Benelli. And so it was kind of just the perfect situation because we had guys with that background. So we went in. We didn't really know what we was going to do. Again, Dad thought it was a terrible idea. Dad was like, nobody's going to watch this thing. And I said, well, it could help business, and
it doesn't hurt.
So he agreed. Yeah. And sure enough, business took on. Like, we really started selling more stuff, and it was a real popular show. Like, we'd won a lot of awards with the Outdoor Channel. And so it was real popular. And that, had we not done that show, we never would have been the big show because a producer in LA was watching that show
on the Outdoor Channel.
On the Outdoor Channel. And he was always like, those guys are always looking for like, what's the next thing, especially in Louisiana at the time. Because Louisiana had a ton, it was like a hotbed of TV shows. So you had Sons of Guns, Billy the Exterminator, Swamp People.
Oh, yeah.
Tons of Bayou Billionaire. You had tons of shows because of the big tax credits that were there. Now there's other states that have it as well. And so if you had a pulse in Louisiana, man, they were listening. And this guy's watching this show on the Outdoor Channel going, look at these guys, And so he sent me an email to the generic information at Duck Commander.
Oh, my gosh.
Hello, to whom may concern. I'm a producer in LA. I watched the show. I think you have a really big show.
Thank the Lord somebody didn't put that in a delete box.
It almost did. So secretary brought it to me and said, Willie, I got some email from some guy in LA. Says he's a producer. You want me to chunk it, or do you want me to respond, or do you want to respond? I said, I'll respond. So I just emailed him back. Hey, it's Willie. What are you thinking? So we got on the phone, and he was a fast talker. He's like, LA. He's like, and I remember he said, like, Willie, this show's going to be so big, you won't be able to walk down the street without everybody recognizing you. And I thought, man, this guy's full of crap.
Did you ever go, there's no way I want that?
I didn't even think it was possible.
Oh,
like I didn't even go. I was just like, it just sounded like a salesman trying to sell me something. Cause I was like, I don't even, I couldn't see, even though we had done the television show. And even though I saw the popularity of it, I just couldn't imagine that, like regular people watching this, or because I always thought about hunting. I was like, nobody's going to watch hunting. It's kind of a
mainstream
niche thing. And I said, well, what do we do? How does that work? And he goes, well, we'll make a 3-minute sizzle reel. And now, fortunately, we had all this footage from these 3 seasons we had done on Outdoor Channel. So we had a bunch of good footage, and those guys shot great footage. I mean, it's really well done.
Yeah.
And so we put together a little sizzle reel, just kind of a goofy, hey, I'm Willie, and showed some of the stuff that we did. And he started showing around New York and LA and to all the networks. And we got a lot of interest. Like there was people. In fact, I never thought it was going to, some of the offers we got were like, looking back now, it was like full seasons. Like Spike TV was one that offered a full season. And I was like, oh, we take that, right? And they're like, no. And there was one out of nowhere. It was A&E. I didn't know anything about A&E. And they had offered 2 pilots. And the guy in LA said, Willie, this is a big network. They're owned by Disney. So it's ESPN, History Channel, ABC. Like all these are kind of their all their partner. They're all in the same company. And he said, man, if they take it, because he said they have a broader, like there's men and women who watch it. So like Spike would be more men, I guess at the time. And so he said, man, if we take a chance, we take this. And he goes, the problem is if they don't pick it up, it's dead. Like nobody's going to touch it, because then they're going to be like, they passed. So we came down and they shot the 2 pilots, and we had no idea what we were doing. We again, just enough TV to know kind of what we were doing. And I felt like we were always good storytellers. But we launched in this big show. And so we shoot the 2 pilots, and then they caught up and they said, man, we got good news and bad news. The bad news is this is not the show that we ordered. Like,
oh no.
At all. They were like, totally not what we thought. The good news is it's way better than the show we thought we had.
I wonder what they thought they were going to
get. They thought they were going to swamp people with beards. So they thought we were like knuckle dragging ignorant people, and just like grunting and stuff. And, the women folk are back and, if you see a picture of us, you kind of think, these guys. And so what they said was, man, this is some sort of family show. Like they never dreamed women would watch it. It would be family. It was going to be funny. They really didn't see the comedy either. That was probably the biggest thing, was the comedy. Like, it's funny. It's a funny show. And so nobody ever really thought, oh, these guys are funny. And
did you guys watch first couple and go, this is really dumb? Or did you go, this is kind of funny?
I had no idea. I really didn't know. Like, I can watch something and go like, I don't know, and I thought, I don't know if people like it. It seems good. And just from the first 2, now when I watch it, I'm like, man, that's a good show. It's like, it's a good show. I mean, it's super funny. I laugh like crazy when I'm watching it. So then they picked up 13 episodes, sight unseen, biggest pickup they'd ever made in their history.
Wow.
Meaning nobody had seen it. So normally, I think Swamp People, I think this is true, that they had filmed 5 or 6 episodes. And what they do is they put it on TV, they get the ratings, and then they go like, okay, order more,
Right.
or if it doesn't rate well, then it's gone. So, but this one, man, this guy, he was like, and I called him. I said, what do you think? He said, Willie's show going to start out here, and it's just going to keep climbing up. And he said, at the end of the day, it's going to be a runaway freight train. He called that shot. By the way, he had just gotten hired by NE. That was his first show he picked up, was Duck Dynasty.
Oh my gosh.
And sure
talk
enough,
about
man, it
swinging
just,
for the fences.
Yeah, and he had no idea about hunting or any of it. And it just kind of had all the right things, just had the right lightning in the bottle, with with somebody like Si, who's super funny. And which, by the way, so I was going to I made a pilot episode TV years before that. And I didn't even want to film Si. I said, we can't film this guy. He's too bizarre. And, we can't, so I filmed around Si, and that shows you what I knew, because he was pure gold,
So I've had people ask me this, and I'm like, I don't know. I've met Si once at a SHOT Show party, probably the first year you guys were on the Outdoor Channel. We're all standing, and it was in Orlando, and it was a Hard Rock Cafe, and they were doing the award ceremony. We're like on the 3rd floor looking down at everybody laughing. And so I don't know, but
it was at the Hard Rock in Orlando.
Yeah, it's at the SHOT Show.
Weird. Yeah, I always remember the Hard Rock in Vegas for the SHOT.
That was. I think this was the first year you guys went to SHOT Show, because I remember the buzz was like, "Who's the guys with the beards? Who's the guys with the beards?" I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I've had people go, "Do you think Si's really that? Does he think he's funny, or is that just who Si is?"
That's the number one question I get. Is Si really like that? Oh, I can tell you right now. Oh, he knows he's funny. So I can just
it's a shtick.
And I can tell you, he really is like that. Like, I always tell people, do you think you could fake that for that long?
No.
I mean, you couldn't fake that, but I didn't see it. Like, I always videoed around him, because I thought he's so bizarre. I just couldn't, but man, when you edit him right too, man, he's just so funny, especially in the edit. And I will say, those guys in LA, they did a remarkable job at editing. How they edited that show, it was brilliant, the pauses and stuff. But Si was like that, man. You could feed him any line, and he would just,
eat it.
Like, most of the stuff that I would, like, when he made fun of me, everything he said was what I would tell him. And so I'd say, Si, say you're so fat, and then I would just make a fat joke. And then when he would deliver it, it was just spot on. And then all the stuff about, like, any kind of cultural reference, like any kind of new song or something, that was all, like, we would just tell him, like, we'd say, Si, say if you love it, you better put a ring on it. And then when he would say it, it would just be it was like he literally just thought of it. And then when he screwed it up, it was even funnier. Because one time we said, Si, say, this is how we do it. And then Si goes, this is the way that we do it. And it was so funny. The hardest thing was not to laugh. And I'd be sitting there going, what? And
you're just biting your tongue going, so please don't laugh.
Because you just let
the crew laugh.
Literally, oh man, we would all just be dying. As soon as they say cut, we would just fall out laughing.
Oh, that's so much fun. So that's a lot of work. Filming that, you guys did like 11 seasons, which is
5 years.
That's a ton.
It was a lot of work.
That's a ton.
Tons of work.
Anytime during that, did you and Corey have I call them hand-to-hand moments where you're sitting there holding hands going, what are we doing? We cannot sustain this.
Yeah, I'd say more hand-to-hand combat, maybe. I don't know if we was holding hands or
throwing them
fists out at each other. Yeah, it's hard, man. It's a lot of work, and it was hard to, from my perspective, I'm a CEO of Duck Commander, so I was pretty much the leader of all of it with the family. So I was kind of used to it, and I thought I was geared up for that. But when you get into that, man, you're pretty much running, everything with their lives. So like, their futures and their contracts and their money and their, media, all that kind of stuff, they kind of look to you to go like, what do we do? What do we say? And so, and it's a lot of people, you're talking about your parents, your brothers, sister-in-laws,
all their kids,
yeah, they got little kids. And so, trying to balance all that was really tough. It's just tough to, cause you felt like if you screwed up, if I screw up on myself and I make a bad deal, I'm like, I can, but you screw up someone else, you're like, yeah, it's going to affect, everybody in your family. And so the beauty of it was, it was in so many ways, I think it helped keep us grounded by doing it together. Cause all the ships rose. And so you couldn't really, most famous people, and famous people as well, but like most famous people I know, they're the only famous person, what I'm saying, whether it's an athlete or, an actor or, singers. I know tons of famous people, even the hunting space, you have, people that are famous in the hunting world, but it's usually just them.
Right.
And so what happens is everybody else around you, according to how famous you are, you usually hire all your family. So everybody works for you. And then, that can be a problem too, because if you ever get out of line, it's like, who's going to tell you, cause you're pretty much providing the means for everybody. But with that, in a good way with us, we were all the same. So it'd be like, if I came in there starting to complain, going, oh, it's so hard, my brother would be like, yeah, I get it, like we're all, so that kind of helped.
You had a lot of ships in your harbor.
Yeah, for sure. And so that kind of helped keep you grounded. And I think we were able to stay in our hometown. So, same school, same church, same, grocery stores, so
yeah.
I think if we'd had to move to LA or New York or somewhere else, that would have been more difficult. And so that made it easier, but it was still hard. It was just it's a lot of pressure. There's no playbook, so there's not like who was I going to call? Say,
right.
Hey, I just saw you went through this too.
Right.
Like who is that? Because really, it's on no level. Like I just didn't know anybody who had done what we did. And
so how did it affect your kids? And was there moments, or I guess a better question is, how did you keep your kids grounded? Because it's one thing to go through this as an adult. It's a whole different thing to go through this as a 14-year-old girl that's trying to deal with middle school drama and then have this.
Yeah.
And it's not like it progressively went slowly. It probably got dropped in their lap overnight.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. Because... So if you think about it, you have kids.
I do. I have a 14-year-old girl and an 11-year-old girl.
So, most everything in life that you've done that they're going to do, most everything you've already done it, right? And so you think about your kids, like I've been to college, I've, got my first job, all these things, graduated high school, all the things that you've done. So they're looking at you and you're like, I've been here, I've been here, I've been here. The only thing that I hadn't done, I was never famous at 14. Mm-hmm. I was never famous at 16. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know, and I guess to some extent, this is the first time I've ever said this, I never had the internet either when I was young. So I didn't grow up in that as well. So that was a different thing too. So now you've got those kind of forces coming together to where you've got social media and this fame at a young age. And so I hadn't been through that. I didn't know what that was like. When I was in high school, nobody knew who I was. It wasn't until I got famous that everybody said, oh, we were good friends in high school. And I'm like, no, we weren't. You never talked to me. Now we're friends. You're like, oh, remember we were always, I was like, yeah, you ignored me the whole time. So yeah, that was difficult. So I say, how did we keep them grounded? I mean, we tried to stay grounded ourselves. Again, I think the same school, the same town, those kind of routines that we were in were helpful. And yeah, I think it digs back into our faith and who we are. I think you've got to be, one of the reasons Duck Dynasty was really did what it did was because I think there was so much authenticity. I felt like, I'd want to say that we have, but I would say that I think the fans knew that we were authentic, and they were like, I think these are real people, and they're really, their beliefs are real. And so I think authenticity in your home is the same way. And so I think when kids get screwed up is when when they hear you saying something different than how they see you acting, when you're at home, they're like, they're not like that at all. But yet you go on maybe a Sunday morning at church, or maybe you're in front of a camera, and it's like you're trying to do that. So I think the more authentic that you are, and I'll say good or bad. I mean, even if you're, I think where you get screwed up is when, you're kind of bad, but you're saying, oh no, we've got it together. And so, just try to do that, and, try to be authentic and push them back to faith and to the Bible. I always want to get my kids tied to the Bible and to the Word of God. And that way, no matter where I went or even if I weren't here, they're tethered to something that's solid, and it's not just because I say do it, it's because they can read the Bible and they would understand that and say, that's what I want to be. And I think Phil did that with us. Corey said years ago, she said, man, because we didn't have any rules. Like growing up, there was no, we had no curfews or anything. And my wife said when we were dating and got married, and she goes, your dad just literally tethered you to the Bible. And he just said, if it makes God happy, then I'm fine with it too. And so there was no rules. It was just he hotwired us to God and said, please him, you'll please me. And that was pretty much the rules growing up.
That was amazing.
And he never said you have to do this, or there was never any rule. It was just, we talked like we were both adults, and we were both just believers in Christ. And he'd be like, if you live your life for Jesus Christ, then whatever you do will please me too. And so get after it. And so, and we did that. I mean, we, especially Jason and I, we did that. We're really strong believers and converted people and studied with people, in high school, and we were fired up, for God. And so, I think that was, and you never know how your kids are going to turn out. Somebody said, oh, your kids turned out so well. And I'm like, well, they're still turning out. So, I'm like, they're still
never
going.
Quits, right?
Yeah. So I don't, I'm certainly proud of all of them, what they've been able to accomplish, and, some in bigger ways and some in ways that you may not see. But, and who knows what God has in store for what, even he still has in store for us. So you never know where that's going to come. But yeah, I'm proud of, how we did, and, good and bad. I mean, it's not like I did everything right for sure. But
one of the things I want to get back to, you said, and this is pivotal, I think, because my audience obviously looks at this and goes, what can I get out of this? Why do I care? Right. And one of the things that you said, I want to dive into a little bit deeper, is who you are in one scenario is also who you are in another scenario. And I think that we were talking about, fame and all that stuff, but also, I mean, if you're an electrician and you're somebody different on Sunday than you are on Saturday night, your kids see that. Yeah. And that's deceit. And that's a whole the root of a lot of problems that could be family problems. Yeah. What is there things that you recognized, because it obviously got exaggerated with what you guys did? Everything got bigger, right? Yeah. Little things became big things. Is there things that you recognize went, oh, wait, we got to stop that, going down this road, or we have to tether ourselves back to this, or this is the wrong direction, that will help guys recognize it in their own lives? Yeah, sure. I mean, hopefully, I mean, if you don't have that, if you lose that ability, then you're done. If you're never able to come back to where, if you think you're just going to do all the things you want to do, the right things all the time, you're not going to do it. And so, so you've got to look at the tenets of the Bible. And that's what I love about Christianity. I love about the plan, is that you can always come back, and you'll veer off, but you come back to where you need to be. And so the idea of, a big idea in the Bible, tenet would be like repentance. And so which simply means to change. And so, I think we've got to be able to change, I'm 52 years old, and there's been so many things in my life, and I'm like, you get to a point you're just like, man, I need to change. And so, and you have to make it so religious. Like, it can be like, there's been times I'm like, okay, I'm way overweight, I'm out of shape. I need to change. I need to make some changes, because I don't, I can see where that's going. And so, whatever those things are, when, I think about when Duck Dynasty was, so as I was growing the business, one of the things I always had to keep in mind was don't chase after money and growth. And cause I'm like, I'm going to be a
oh man, I'm just going to have to chase and everything, and so you can do that and let your family down and all that. So those were times I had to do that. And then when the TV show starts, and the problem is there, then you got to be careful, because you can justify it easily. Like, well, this is such a big deal. But that's pretty much,
this is lightning striking.
But it's everybody's thing, right? The electrician, it's his big deal too. It's all of us have whatever it is where we make money or whatever. And that's a big deal. But when that becomes the biggest deal, and money and all that, and I knew that, I was like, man, you can't chase after this stuff. But there were definitely times I'd be like, okay, the media was like that, and just where you had to be careful, and not get caught up. And social media was like that. Like I quit. Shoot, I ain't been on social media since like 2012, and I just didn't. It just bothered me, Like, it started changing the way I thought. And I was like, oh no, people don't like this. And I was like, hang on, why am I worried about some guy in Iowa, on a keyboard?
Behind the keyboard.
One guy's like ruining my day, and I'm like,
monkeys throwing poop.
Yeah. So I just kind of, I think that's a big part. I think, I've always been a guy who likes to learn, and I like to change, and I'd like to be, I think I'm a completely different person than I was when I was 25, and even 30, and even 40, which the show started when I was 40, which is crazy to think that I was 40. So there was a lot of maturity, way more than like we talked about our kids. So somebody coming in this at 20, it's going to be tough. But even nuttier to think is Phil and Kay and Si were all like 65. Isn't that crazy that they were, like, they thought life was over. Like,
they thought,
we're
done.
Like, we're done.
Yeah,
we're done.
We're on the sunset
All of them
cruise.
were kind of retired, and then boom. I mean, Dad's written so many books. Si became like a household name, and all that was like post 65, which is really amazing. So you never know what God's got in store. But I think we always have to be willing to say, hey man, if I'm wrong, if I need change, if I need to, because I write about in the book, it's like, none of us wake up and we're just like, we just want to be this far off path. No, you get there over time. It's like being in water where the current pulls you around. And you look at it, you go, man, I'm way off.
I'm a long way off from sand.
Where I was supposed to be going. And that's what happens. And I think that's the way it happens in life. And then at times you just got to go, hey man, I got to, I was wrong and I need to change, and I want to be better.
So let's talk about the book, Gospeller. And you've written other books, and this one, I think for especially, well, I don't want to say that, but in my circles, especially for Christian men, manly men, which you guys are, this is a hard subject. This is a subject that I've had lots of conversations in my circles, close circles, like, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. I'm just, I'm not gonna talk to the lady in line at the grocery store about this. Yeah. And you, number one, did a bunch of research. Number two, you break this down so even a neophyte like myself can figure this out. Yeah. Let's talk about what it is and why you wrote it, and some of the impacts that it will get guys to go pick it up and read it. This episode is sponsored by Fold AR. Have you ever wanted to carry a little more firepower than just a pistol? In the current trying times, it'd be nice to have an AR that fits in a backpack the size of a briefcase. Fold AR has solved that problem for you. They come in a few different versions: fold in half rifles, fold in thirds, and even an AR pistol. Don't worry about finding the perfect backpack to fit them in. They come in a backpack specifically for them, and they look just like a regular small pack. Fold ARs don't just fold up and conceal easily, but they are very safe and will hold their own at the range. Fold AR is the perfect combination of concealment and firepower. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Silencer Central. Silencer Central, thank you for supporting us. If you would like to support Silencer Central, if you have any interest in a silencer, which I encourage because it is a game changer in the field, check out silencercentral.com. They will walk you through the paperwork online, as well as they can ship that silencer directly to your doorstep. So check them out and tell them Ike sent you.
Sure. Well, it's my favorite book I've ever written. I did write literally all of it. It was the story I wanted to tell. It's weird, it's when you feel like God, I speak all the time, and when you feel like God's got something for you to say, like he wants you to get something out, it's a different thing, like I speak a lot, and sometimes I'm like, it's a job. But man, when you feel like God's got a message He wants you to get out, and I really felt like this was a message. It was a hard subject. Even some of the publishers were like, "Man, you're picking a subject that not a lot of people write about." This idea of sharing your faith or evangelism, or whatever you want to call it. And but it was the one thing that I've done. I've done this longer than I've done television. I've done longer than I've done hunting. I've done longer than I've been married. I've been married 32 years. This subject I've done since I literally was a young child, a young kid. And I saw it modeled by Phil and Kay, especially Phil. Like when he became a believer, man, that's all he wanted to do was share his faith. And if you watch the movie The Blind, that shows you where Phil was before, and it shows what happened when the gospel came into his life. There was no hope left. He had kicked us out. The marriage was over. I was going to grow up a completely different life than I did, were it not some miraculous thing happened. And that thing was the gospel. And that was that cat that drove up and went in the bar and preached the gospel to Phil and planted that seed. Phil didn't immediately respond, but he came back and he said, man, this is when he was chased by the police and like literally he was fixing to go to jail. And then when he drug back up and said, I want to hear more about that gospel, about that old person dying. And so then Phil obeys the gospel. Kay, thank God, forgives him, and they keep the marriage together. So now all of a sudden when we go into my childhood, that's mom and dad. It would have been completely different.
How old were you?
I was young. I was like, 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
3. Yeah, I was young. So this was a whole new deal, and they stayed together. Now, had that only affected my family and it just kept us together, would have been totally worth it.
Right.
I'm not a prosperity gospel guy. God didn't say, it's not like, oh, look at what he did with us. It's not, it would have been worth it just for that. If we had no money, if we just normal.
If you're still fishing.
Yeah. I mean, we were as happy as we could be. Even before Duck Dynasty, we never, like, it wasn't like we were like, oh, we gotta, that's the difference. Like we weren't chasing it. The producer found us. The guy for Benelli asked, we weren't out trying to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody came to us and said that. But I do think that was God's plan as well. I do think God had it planned. If we were going to take him up on it, was because the whole way along we had done just enough. The Outdoor Channel TV show got us, the VHS tapes and the DVDs prepared us for doing the first season of that. We'd been around cameras, and then that prepared us for what happened on A&E, and then it just went crazy, and
which gave you a platform for the books.
It
and gave you a platform for what
when
you're
I
doing
came
today.
to Phil and I said, Phil, we've done the Outdoor Channel show, and I said, Dad, there's a bigger A&E wants us to do a show. Phil's like, no. I literally was like, nah. Now you've really lost your mind. I said, well, and here's what I told him. I said, Dad, I think it may be a bigger way to get the gospel out to more people. And he looked at me, and this is back to your comment. We were talking about change. And Phil said, I never thought about that. And he goes, if it'll get the gospel out to more people, and he gave me a thumbs up. And even though he didn't really want to do it, and but that was true, it was he was going to be able to get that out in a bigger way. And so, yeah, I mean, once that happened, it was like, well, good grief, this makes sense. But the preparation. So now you go back to Phil and Kay. The family stays together. Now he can focus. He quit drinking all the time and all the carousing and everything he was doing. So now he can focus on what he needs to do. He poured into the business. He did the heavy lifting, like I said, starts making these, DVDs, but he's still preaching the same time. So I'm watching him like that never stopped. And that always took precedent. In fact, I called yesterday and I was talking to Mom. Phil says, tell Will I'm still baptizing him down there. I said, okay. It's still the main thing we talk about. Like, I don't care what I've done and what we've done. He never brings up any of that. Really, he's just so not impressed with any of that. But every time I talk about sharing our faith or baptizing somebody, like, that's what we talk about mostly. So the TV show happens. So the family stays together. The company stays together. The TV show, I take over the business. The TV show happens. And then all this other stuff starts. So you have the books, the movies, the podcast. Sadie, I watched Sadie this morning. She was speaking in Alabama, like 10 or 15,000 kids.
Wow.
She's been all over the world speaking. She's got millions of followers. I mean, I don't know how many books we've all written, but it's probably 50, combined. Hundreds of millions of people have been touched by the gospel all over the world. And I can trace that back to this young couple in South Arkansas who heard the gospel, who responded.
Catholic priest.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, who, like, you know what I'm saying? That little seed that was planted has went all over the world. So that's why I wrote the book, because I was thinking the first chapter is about mom and dad, and I thought, what if that wouldn't have happened? What, I mean, all these people that have been exposed, even you and I sitting here.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be sitting here talking.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where I'd be. I'd be like, I've been raised by a single mom. I don't even know if I'd be a Christian. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so all that happened, and I can trace it back to there. So when I look back, I'm appreciative, going, man, I'm so glad that guy went up there and shared the gospel. I'm so glad Dad's sister asked the guy, because Dad's sister cared about him. One of the few people who did, because he was such a bad guy. But then I think forward, and I think, who is it that I can talk to? Who is that person? So when you ask about men, and who is it that you could talk to, share the gospel, and they may be like a Phil Robertson, where they were so bad. Like, who are the buddies that you're like, oh, that never, these guys are. Yeah. But sometimes the people that are so bad, once they turn around, like Saul, when he turned to Paul, once they get going on the right side, man, they've got a confidence, there's a leadership, and and so I'm thinking, man, I just never know who that person may be. So that's why I always, the Bible says, always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you have. And so I want to be prepared. And part of this book was to help people to be prepared. Because what I found was that most people, they're just not, they've disqualified themselves from ever having this conversation. So it starts with, I don't know the Bible well enough, which then I ask, what are you doing for that? Usually nothing. I don't know how to start. I don't know how to start that conversation. I've been so bad. I'm the last person to be helping anybody else. So you hear that one a lot. It's not my gift. I'm kind of shy, or I think you should keep that. And some of these I think are from the devil. Like you should just keep that to yourself. Mm-hmm. Well, that's brilliant if you're the evil one going, okay, how about we never talk about what it is that, I don't know how many times I've mentioned Corey just in our talk. It's been several. It would be like, I think my relationship with Jesus would be the same way. Like, I can't help but mention that, because obviously Corey and I have a relationship, because I'm going to keep saying, we were just talking the other day, or right. Right, she said. And I think when your relationship like that is with Jesus, so that's not a gift. Like, I don't have the gift of talking about Corey. In fact, just tell your spouse, I'm never going to mention your name to anybody for the rest of our lives, because I'm just not gifted at it. Well, your spouse would be like, okay. So I think the hand. So what I was trying to do in the book was to break down these arguments, going, well, that's kind of silly, like if you can ask somebody that, if you can ask someone, hey, are you married? I asked you a while ago, do you have kids? It didn't seem weird at all. Did you seem weird when I asked you that? So that's what I think when we ask people those questions, and we can just get the ball. I just need to get the ball started. And so most of it starts listening. I just listen. I listen to people, and it comes up so much. Like, you'll hear people, you hear the fear, you hear maybe a bad diagnosis, you hear, or my kids are, I'm really scared about my kid, and so when I hear it, so I want to be prepared and have the answers for them. And so it does require reading and knowing the Bible. So that I definitely want to, I mean, we can start talking about hunting and start talking about how much we prepare for that. Dadgum, you don't talk about prepare.
Yeah. I mean, anything, hunting, fishing,
if I'm
golf.
Here's the deal. If you're listening, most people probably hunt, but if you don't, if you want to get in within 15 yards, I'd say of any living creature. Yeah. A duck, a deer, an elk, you realize what it takes to get, it doesn't just happen.
Right.
And usually it's a teamwork. It's like But to get yourself that close to something that is that good at not being 15 yards from you is really hard. And so when I think about it, I just think about it the same way. Like if I want to get in a situation where I can actually get and talk to people and I could have that moment in time, that's what I'm looking for. The same thing I'm looking for. If I got a deer at 15 yards is broadside, I'm like, man. And for those of us who film it, then you got another step because you got to make sure that guy can see it as well. But like to get to that moment in time, and I always remind the camera guys, like don't ever blow that, like realize the seriousness of that time because it may be a month before you get that again, because it's all got to happen just right. So if I'm in a conversation with a person to where there's some vulnerability, there's some openness, and I can get that gospel in there, man. I'm going to get that gospel in because I'm thinking that person may be just like my dad. There may be kids coming along that may do wonders for the kingdom of God. There may be grandkids coming that, and this guy may be the holdup.
Yeah.
This is where the guy, and I'm not afraid to share with him and share what I know. And I want to be as prepared as I can possibly be. So, if I have a Bible, great. If I don't have a Bible, that's okay. I've memorized things that I need to know. And it's just like hunting. It's always different.
Everyone.
Like you can't write up a situation and go, oh, the deer's going to do this and he's going to turn. No, they do. I'm like, what was that move? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're walking this way and then boop, they stop, and so, and I think talking to people about the gospel is the same way. Like there's still stuff I hear. I'm like, I've never heard quite that,
Yeah.
like that's a new one. That's a new one on me or whatever. And if they don't respond, at least I'm there to help. Sometimes I can plant the seed and I can be there and they can come back. It's like hunting deer. Like I'll see a deer. We just can't make it happen. He didn't quite come in, but I know where he's at.
Yeah.
And I'm going to come back because, and oftentimes they've been later in the year, sometimes the last day of season. Yeah. That sucker came back. I got him somewhere near there or whatever. And so we can do the same way. And I just think my spiritual side is way more important than anything else. So, I mean, to get people to heaven is the main thing. And, I make the argument in the book that that's our main job. That's the mission that comes out of the Great Commission, which is Jesus. Jesus said in Matthew 28, go make disciples, baptize people, and teach people. Those are 3 things, very specific things. But I run into a lot of people living a Christian life. They're nowhere near those 3.
Yeah.
They're not making disciples. They're not baptizing people. They're not teaching anybody anything. And so the question is, was that for all of us or was that just for them dudes he was talking to? And I think it was for all of us. And so I find that when I'm on that mission, it's way better. Because a lot of people I know that are believers, here's what their mission is. They try to go to church as much as they can, and they try to be a good person. That's not the mission. That's a super watered down. One, Jesus didn't say that. And then it's just a mission that it's not really a mission. So then and that's why people, I think, don't reach where it is, where God wants them in the kingdom. And that's why we're not seeing revival and tons of people coming in. Because here's the deal. The world is gobbling up their own mission. And they are just, feasting on people. Christians, young people, just look around society. You tell me. Tell me what you're seeing.
Yeah. Look at social media. Look at what the news is
look
doing.
Positive, look good. Looks as dark as heck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's our kids. That's our grandkids. I'm just like, they're just going after them like crazy. And so there's people being converted. It's going to be one way or the other. You're going to be lost and converted to this worldly thinking, all this buffoonery that we see in America right now and all over the world. It's just like, it's dark, man. It's lost. And, suicide. It's just never, it's good. It's evil.
So we're in Kalispell and you're sharing, a lot about the book, but what are you doing here? Why are we in Kalispell?
I'm speaking tomorrow. Yeah.
To a bunch of kids, right?
I am, to kids, teenagers.
Which is
Levi Lesko invited me to speak at Movement. There's so many that sound just like I just did a Momentum, and so the Movement conference, and there's been speakers here last few days, and so I'm speaking tomorrow. He called and asked me would I, and I said and
that's awesome. That's a lot of.
I play golf. What a beautiful part of the world this is. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really neat. So, kids, one of the things, and this is 100% personal, and I laugh my butt off because in one of the Duck Dynasty, and I don't know which one of your daughters, but you're talking about dating. They were talking about dating, and you said, okay, the only way that you're going to date a boy is if I get to go hunting with him. And you explained why. Yeah. Do you really, did you do that? Because here's why. I've done it with my kid, and it scared the bejesus. The boys won't even talk to her now.
Yeah, a little of that was for TV, probably. We probably hammed up a little bit, but yeah, I did. I really didn't want to frighten the boys that much. Some of them I did. Some of them I met them. I was like, oh, they need to. Yeah. I got to get them out and show them what's up a little bit. But yeah, there's a little truth to that.
That's funny because I did that. The first kid never saw him again. It worked beautifully, absolutely beautifully. I was like, I'm gonna put you in a duck line with me. You can see how I shoot. I'm gonna see how you when you're nervous. I'm gonna see when you're happy. I'm gonna see when you're angry. I'm gonna get to see everything about you, and I won't have to worry about this being a surprise to anybody.
Yeah, you can learn a lot about. He
never showed up. At the duck
get
line.
A kid out there, so yeah, for sure.
So there's a lot of kids running around right now in Whitefish, Montana that are trying to learn.
Didn't make
those
the
lessons.
cut. It didn't make the cut.
So, one of the things I ask all of my guests. Well, actually, one other thing, I heard through the grapevine that, and I have a couple notes here, but I heard through the grapevine that you guys are or have launched an optics line through Buck Commander. Mm-hmm. Buck Ops, so talk to me about that. I heard it's completely unique than anything that is on the market currently.
It is. Yeah, it's so we're trying to take advantage of this time that, so you got sunset and then you've got 30 minutes. And so in that time, and I know you've been there, where it's like, it's a little darker than you want. It's still legal, And so we got this technology where you can click a button. And when I say goes to light, it goes to light,
And it's not like starlight. It's like a starlight scope. It's different.
It's pulling the light, whatever light's out there, and somehow it's making it. I don't know all the. I just know when I turn on, I'm like, whoa. Yeah, it's like whoa. In fact, when we were doing when they sent me the deck on the marketing side of it, and they sent me the thing, and it said, like from dark to light. That's where I got the subtitle for
your book.
And I went, that's it.
Dang marketers.
And I put turning darkness to light, one conversation at a time. That's the subtitle of Gospeller. And I got it from the optics from the Buck Ops. And when I saw it, because it's got photos of like this dim, grainy, and then poof, and then it makes it light. And so, yeah, it's really exciting, the kind of the technology that we have to be able to just one more little helper, to help you get, because I've shot deer, like, I can barely see their horns,
Right.
Again, still legal. Still legal. I just can't,
Is it a 3-point or 4-point?
You're deep in the wood. Right. Yeah, I just want to make sure it's the deer I want to shoot,
Right.
So, I mean, crap, you only get to shoot, like, in so many states, you get one deer, you get one buck, and like,
this is it.
You make a mistake, you're like, dang, come back next year. So, we worked with our partners on this, and so really excited about it. We got tons of other products we want to come out with, and stuff for crossbows and other things. But it's gonna be really cool.
Buck Optics is what you're calling it.
Buck Ops.
Buck Ops. Right?
Mm-hmm. Buck Ops and Buck
cool.
Commander.
And when is it? Is it
Ryan
available?
Busbus is who we're partnered. He's one of us now, and so I've known the Busbuses for years. Ryan's been great with products, and so he loves making products, and he's come up with so much stuff over the years, so all throughout the industry. So, be out this year. Yeah,
that's very cool.
I can't wait to get out myself, and we had to move fast on it, and first time I saw the technology just blew me away.
That is
like
crazy.
I'm looking at a nightline sky, and then they hit that button. It just goes.
Well, it
goes to light. Now this ain't green. It's not. I mean,
oh really? It's like
you can see green grass.
Wow.
It's daylight.
Wow.
It's weird.
So that gets me back to one of the other questions. Life is busy, and hunting is a big part of you guys' family life. Is this the life that you're leading now? Is it eaten into the hunting? Do you still get in the field a lot?
It's a good question. Yeah, I think it does. It has. Certainly Duck Dynasty did that, but and then I had time to roll, but I get to hunt a lot. I get to hunt more than most people, I think. Coming up soon, I'll probably, yeah. I mean, I'll look up and go like, I can't do that hunt, can't do this hunt. But I've just met so many people over the years that I've gotten, I go hunt 6 or 7 states, and I don't duck hunt as much as I used to at all. Dad and Jay still do. I mean, that's mostly what they do. Mostly I'm chasing deer. Try to go out and get something early, whether it's elk or something, but I hadn't done that last couple of years. But gotten into pheasant. I've been hunting pheasants.
Yeah, actually, I ran into Brandon Maddox, Silencer Central.
Yeah.
Him and I are good friends, and I was out there.
He was just at our hunting camp.
Yeah,
we were with each other last week. He brought his kid down to Sportsman Camp down at our. Great guy. Yeah, great.
Yeah, he's
great
a good
friend.
man. But we were there, and you guys were showing up the next week to go pheasant.
Yeah,
hunting.
we did the pheasant hunt. So I've been pheasant hunting.
Was it Dave Ramsey with you? Was he?
I was with Dave Ramsey. Yeah, that was one. He kind of turned me on to that, and then I've actually got 2 hunts this year back in South Dakota. So I love it. It's really fun.
That's fun.
It's great. It's great. Yeah, it's such a social thing, and the food, and I love the cooking and stuff, and so. Just more new stuff. I shot a gator last week or this week, actually, a few days ago. Fun. Yeah, I was in Florida. I shot a gator.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just like doing different kinds of things, and so it will. I mean, sometimes it cuts into it, and you gotta, but I'll get. Believe me, I'll get enough. I'll get mine. so I still got a lot of meat.
So some of the other questions, just to kind of wrap this up in the interest of time, if you got a couple other minutes here. So what is it? We all recreate outside for different reasons. Why is it that you hunt? What is the driving force that, takes you to Florida to shoot a gator or pheasant hunting or sit in a tree stand?
Well, I think the first thing is I always want to be tied to, I need it. Like I need to be outside. I need to be in creation. I need to be somehow tied with the land. It's therapeutic for me. It's, it just helps keep me grounded. It's something I can look forward to, like during the spring and summer, even though I do some hunts there as well. But, just kind of like, I can't wait to get out there. And, I just need that time. I think socially I like it as well. I like the social aspect of hunting, no matter what, and doing it like we do. It's, you got camera guys and stuff. So, but it's, it's like a project. It's like, we got to do this together. Depending on other people and depending on people that show up that, if I'm hunting in their state and their property, they've looked at trail cameras and they've got, where the ditches are and how we're going to get to the place and what, and so, it's just like this big project. And I think, and then I love the other end. So I'm not as much into, banging my chest like a gorilla and saying, it's more like now we've got meat. Now, how do we cook this? How do we, and then it just starts a whole another aspect of socialness to where I'm going to cook this with someone. I'm going to lay this out on the table for the family. Again, back to my social, back to feeding people. I want to teach that to my kids, to my grandkids. I love it when they're able to provide something. And we always make a big deal. We're like, hey, man, this meal came from, you never know where the towns we are going, but I think it's a nice skill to have. And I know there's a lot of people out there who wish they knew how to go get their own food.
Especially during COVID, right?
Exactly, right? I mean, people are, and I feel like people are like, oh, no, I need to know that, because you go to the grocery store. Heck, we had an ice storm. And the ice storm hit Dallas. I mean, there was no food in our grocery store. I mean, I realized how much stuff we have at our store comes from Dallas. So I was like, and we're in Louisiana. And I think for all those reasons, is why that, just enjoy it. And again, it's not about the biggest horns or just, it's about the whole process, man. I want to take it all the way to the, boom, setting the pot on that's all I love. I can't wait till when I get my gator meat back. And some of my kids are already like, I can't wait to eat, see what we're going to have. And so it just starts a whole nother creativity of like, how do we do this? And How do we serve this up? And so, yeah, it just takes a lot of great time, that you're spent towards a mission of getting something out there. And rather than just the generic, we go buy some at a grocery store or we go to a restaurant, let them cook it. And, so many people, man, that's why Duck Dynasty was such a, the prayer at the end was awesome, but just the fact that we sat around the dinner table.
Yeah.
That was, a lot of people were like, we don't do that,
Yeah.
Everybody's just grabbing it on the way and,
yeah.
Waiting in line at some restaurant. And, there's just, there could be a better way, a more positive way.
So, one of the last thing I'll ask you, and this is, we've kind of touched on it about 27 times during this conversation, but what are you going to be thinking about? God willing, you have a deathbed and it doesn't happen, like, walk out there and get hit with a golf ball and lights out. But what are you going to be thinking on the deathbed?
Playing with him, it may happen.
Sorry, sore subject. But what are you going to be thinking about, on a deathbed? God willing, you have a deathbed. What's going to be important to Willie?
I just want to, I work for God and I want God to, I want to be pleasing in his sight and I just want him to know me. And I just want to try to get the gospel to as many people as I can. And, and so when I think about death, I think, I try to do the numbers and go like, okay, if I die at this point, how much time do I have left? And that's why I just want to be so productive in that time. I just don't want to waste, and even though I think that's hard, to do, why would you go play golf or, but it's like, you want to be productive in the time that you have. And so whatever that is, wherever that is that God wants me to do. And I think there's a multiplication of that with people and, where Jesus got 12 people and then those people, went out and got after other people. So I think, like that, kind of like the parable of the talents, where, the one that went and multiplied it. And so I do think there's that. And so I want to grow that. And I like that idea, it's just everything I do in life. I want to, if I can go out and catch or kill critters and eat them, I want to do that way more for the kingdom of God. How many people can I go share my faith with? Or tomorrow I'll be talking to thousands of kids, and who's going to have that there'll be a lot of things that happen I won't even know,
right.
If I get to heaven, they'll be like, I was there, I was there. I heard you talk. I heard you said something to me one time. So wherever that is, I want that to be even more, and whatever business or fame, and because God didn't tell us we couldn't do. I think sometimes Christians are like, we just kind of live this lowly life and we're thinking we're not supposed to be big. I think you can do big things. It just means maybe you have to do even bigger things for God, Like, I don't want to be known as the Duck Dynasty guy,
Yeah.
I want to be known as the guy who's like, preach the gospel, who's like,
planted that seed.
He was like, that dude, man, he was all about sharing his faith. And so it doesn't mean I can't do big things in life that maybe people know me. I think Christians we should all be doing huge things, like we should have our lives lined out right where we don't have a lot of the mess that other people have to deal with, and so sometimes I just think we're not confident, we just gotta be, hey, we're confident, man, we're going to heaven, we're gonna live forever. And so why not, while we're here, let's have a great time. Let's try to get others. And because I still see people every day, they're just lost as they can be. They're caught up in all the wrong things. They're caught up in money and all this stuff, and so, man, whatever it is that I have that's attractive to people, and they're going, this is what I like about you. I promise it's just a reflection of who I'm living for. It's probably not me. It's just, it's what's living in me and what's coming out of me and the fruit. That's what you're seeing. And you're like, man, I like that, because I've been around a lot of people rich and famous and I can't stand them. I don't want to be in the same room with them. They're awful. They're miserable, but they need the gospel. So I want to get in there with them. Maybe I can, maybe I can share with them. Maybe they can turn around and go like, and boom, everything will just change. Like, let's go.
Well, I appreciate I appreciate how you are very humble, very honest, and very genuine. Your whole family is very, very genuine, and I think that's why Duck Dynasty was so. It it was the number one show in its time, and it was the thing. It's because you're genuine, and I think the funny thing is, Corey saying your guys' family is not normal. I honestly think that a lot of Americans, yes, they're funny things. Not everybody has an Uncle Si, obviously, right? But I think there's a lot of stuff that you guys do that most Americans do, and that is genuine, and they can relate to that, or they aspire to it.
Right.
They aspire to sit around a table and eat with their family.
Right. That's it. Yeah, a lot of people didn't do that, but they were like, I want to do that. Mm-hmm. And so they would give them something to shoot towards to do that. Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't even live by each other, so they're all spread out, and they don't, a lot of families they don't ever see each other.
Right.
Kids are all gone, so.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for your time.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun. It's great to get to hang out with you and learn more about that. And I think, checking out, you said you don't do social media, but I'm sure
on social media. I just don't. It's not me the one doing it. Well, yeah, they asked me about it, but I don't read it.
Yeah. I get you.
I don't read the comments.
I'm with you. So
if you're sending me a comment, I'm probably not going to see it.
But the book, where can you get the book? Everywhere?
Amazon or wherever they sell books. It's pretty much everywhere. So.
I listened to mine on online when I was flying. I just got back from Africa yesterday, and so I had a lot of flight time. Listened to it.
Perfect.
I may have fell asleep a few times, so I got it.
I talked you to sleep. So
no, but
I know, and I wanted to read it myself. I hate doing that. That's the worst thing I hate about books is doing the audio version. But I knew I had to do this one, and I was proud of how that turned out. Even that one turned out good. So it
was really well done, and it opened.
Yeah,
my
people
eyes
said it felt like I was just talking to them.
Yeah, it felt like this conversation.
Yeah,
it was awesome. So,
well,
thank you so much.
All right, buddy.
Enjoy your time here.
I will. We'll do. Good to see you.
Yeah.